Hi, hello. It is Josh Bow for Pod Maverick After Dark, joining you after the Mavericks just picked up a rousing 118-97 win against the Los Angeles Lakers. As you can guess by hearing my voice first, I am not without my fellow podcast host, Kirk Henderson. He is getting a DNP CD tonight. He had basketball practice with his kid. He didn't really get to watch the game, and he was driving home when this game ended. He's not recording. That would be silly for him to come on and record a podcast when I can just knock one out. I know this was a really fun game, and I'm sure he would have liked to talk about it if he could have seen it. But hey, real life happens. So it's just going to be a solo show for me, which means it's probably going to be a quick one. Uh, I'll get my thoughts in, get out, and get on with our night. And I just wanted to open the podcast with this. Suck my ass. I literally just talked all afternoon about how the Mavericks roster is good and that Memphis loss last night was disappointing because I have a higher expectation level for this roster, which I think even without Luka and Kyrie Irving out with injury, they are still capable of winning the occasional game. And apparently that was a hot take on Twitter today because I had a back and forth with a variety of fans who just think this roster is apparently bad and they can't win when Luka and Kyrie don't play. And my point was not that this team is going to play winning basketball without those two, or that they are even going to play 500 basketball, but that they can still steal a win every now and then. Because here's my logic, guys. If we all believe that this roster is as good as we think it is, which is an NBA championship caliber roster, when this situation happens, you can't cry wolf when they lose a game without Luka and Kyrie, or at least five in a row. They're going to lose some games. That's part of it. But you can't cry wolf after five in a row and be like, well, the roster sucks. They're not going to win any more games without these two. Like, that's not how you don't, no. You can't say that they're a contender for the championship. And then when this happens, be like, well, the roster sucks. There's nothing they can do. First, it makes it really reductive to talk about the team because there's still tough stuff we can talk about. If you're just going to be a guy that every time they lose, just be like, the roster's, what's even the rebuttal to that? There's nothing to talk about. So that part of it was frustrating, but also I just don't think it's true. The roster doesn't suck. It's very hard to win without your two superstars, especially when they're your offensive engine. But the point we've been talking about with this Mavericks team since they built it over the summer has been that this is probably the best team that they've had, the best roster that they've had since the 2011 championship team. Someone in the comments, we have to just shoot 50% from three. Yeah, that helps, but that's the freaking NBA. You have to shoot well from three to win games sometimes. Like, that's just kind of how it is. The Lakers didn't shoot well from three. The Mavericks did, and the Mavericks won. You could say that about like 80% of every NBA game right now. Of course they have to shoot well, but you know how you shoot well? You have good shooters, and they put together a roster with good shooters. You should not be surprised that a team with Klay Thompson and Quentin Grimes made a lot of three-pointers, because guess what? Those two guys are really good at shooting three-pointers. It's not like guys that don't make threes suddenly start making threes. Spencer Dinwiddie was 1 of 5 from three. Najee Marshall was 1 of 6. Like, PJ has been making threes fairly consistently this season. So has Klay. So has Grimes. Those guys combined to make 12 threes. That's a lot, but I mean, they're good shooters. So I don't really want to hear that point either. Like, this wasn't a fluky game. They played well and they have a good roster. So, oh boy, I'm about to sneeze. Woo. That's some professional podcasting work right there. So anyway, I'm glad the Mavericks instantly validated my take from this afternoon. Apologies if I went after anyone that interacted with me today. I don't like talking about how good the roster is, and then they face some adversity, and then it's like, the roster sucks. Like, that's so reductive. There's more to talk about with this team than that. And this is a good roster. I've believed in it since they built it. I believed in it since they first made the trades and they went on that finals run when it felt like everyone thought that finals run was a fluke. And then they made improvements, and I only felt like doubling down on that. So this is a good team. They're going to win some basketball games. So thank you, Mavericks. That's the first point I wanted to make. Again, this was not they were not going to lose every game, and again, they're not even probably going to play 500 ball with Luka and Kyrie out. But this is a good enough roster to steal a couple games. You want to know why? Because I think this is a championship roster, and yes, it's not. If Luka and Kyrie are out and they can't win any games, then it's not a championship level roster, because in the NBA you have to have more than two guys. Now, you have to have two guys really good like Luka and Kyrie, but you can't have two guys and then nothing. Like we just saw what the Boston Celtics did. They have probably the deepest and most talented roster in the NBA. Look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it was just so funny that point kept being, well, the Mavericks roster sucks because they're missing their guy. The team that just beat them last night, Memphis, didn't have their starting backcourt. They didn't have Ja Morant and Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart. So, like, what are we doing here? Like, of course, this team is good enough to win some games. Maybe not a lot. I'm not trying to argue that they're going to win a lot with Luka and Kyrie injured. But I'm just saying, if you believe that this is a championship level roster, they were going to win some games. And they did. And tonight was really refreshing to see. Tactically, I didn't see too much changing. I saw a lot of really good drive and kick. Their drive and kick game was awesome tonight. The Lakers should be a little embarrassed about how easy the Mavericks were able to kind of drive and kick them to death. The Mavericks were beating guys off the dribble without a screen off the first step, which is one indicative of, again, that this roster has significant more versatility from their role players than the Mavericks rosters of the last, 5 years, or pretty much any other Luka era. Like you think about what Quentin Grimes did. Even Najee Marshall didn't have a good game, but what he was able to do instead of keeping the ball moving, PJ Washington, even Dinwiddie, even Clay, you just see the ability that these guys have to make a play that's not just shooting a spot up three, which is so important in the NBA right now. You cannot just get away with being a guy that stands on the perimeter and shoots threes as a role player anymore. Defenses are getting too good. You have to be able to do a little bit more than that. Not to mention, Jaden Hardy made 3 threes as well. And also, again, when they Jaden Hardy, it's funny, when they make him the on-ball creator for a possession, he looks really bad, and when he's off-ball scoring off secondary action, he looks really good. Unfortunately, with Luka and Kyrie out, he kind of gets forced into some possessions where he has to create, and those are bad possessions. But when they keep him to the secondary, not necessarily even secondary ball handler, but just more of a spot up attacker instead of an on ball attacker, if that makes sense. He just looks so much better, and he did a little bit more of that tonight. Had more spot up threes tonight. And yeah, the Mavericks made 18 to 38 threes. That's insane percentage, 47.4%. Looked really good shooting the ball. But again, they got good looks because they were driving, kicking the Lakers to death. Quentin Grimes was awesome again, 23 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. 1 steal. I know there's some consternation amongst the fan base among why is he not starting right now. And I guess you can make the case, but he played 29 minutes. So it's not like he didn't play a lot. It might be part of it that kid feels like Grimes is more, some guys are more comfortable coming off the bench. Jason Terry came off the bench for a long time with the Mavericks. Maybe coming into the game this way is just better. And better for the way that this roster is balanced. Helps a little bit with their side. I kind of like them starting big, like Dinwiddie, Clay, Najee, PJ, Lively. That's a pretty big starting lineup. They were big against Memphis, but they went big with Maxi. Took Maxi out, put Dinwiddie in. I thought that was also a good move by the coaching staff. Point guard Najee, sole point guard Najee was an interesting experiment last night, but they just need a little bit more juice. Kid has been pretty adamant about keeping 2, playmakers on the floor at almost all times. And he got away with that a little bit last night against Memphis to try to maybe go big ball, bully ball, to try to counteract how good Memphis is in the paint on the boards, but that didn't work. Might as well play to your strengths. And this Mavericks team is at their strength when they've got 2 capable ball handlers on the floor at all times, whether that's Luka, Kyrie when they're healthy, Luka Najee, Luka Dinwiddie, Kyrie Dinwiddie, Kyrie Najee. You just need 2 guys. It just helps a lot. So they started with Najee and Dinwiddie, and then they kind of had Hardy and Grimes come in off the bench, matching minutes with Najee and Dinwiddie. Shout out to Dinwiddie for having a pretty good game, one of his best games in a while. I don't think he's played very well for the last 2 weeks, but he provided exactly what they needed. He didn't make threes, but that's okay. 8 assists to 3 turnovers. You take that from your plug-in backup guard that's starting at point. Dinwiddie's been really great at taking care of the ball, and his passing's actually been pretty good. He's just gotten into trouble when he's gotten a little shot happy and maybe a little ISO ball. Didn't see too much of that tonight from Dinwiddie. He kept the ball moving, he kept attacking, and that was good to see. Rebounds were a key tonight as well. Mavericks did good on the board. They did everything well. Like, I don't even know what they did poorly tonight. They guarded well, held the Lakers under 100 points. Lakers didn't shot okay. They shot bad from 3. They shot pretty decent from 2. Went to the free throw line 24 times, but they did okay. Like, they didn't have many. Mavericks didn't force a lot of turnovers, didn't block a lot of shots. They had 7 steals, which is pretty decent, but the Lakers only had 10 turnovers total. Mavericks only scored 4 points off turnovers, but they only allowed 6 points off of their own turnovers, which was a big improvement. It's kind of funny. The Mavericks won a game by 19 points and led by double digits for most of the fourth quarter. They had 5 fast break points, which is pretty funny. Outscored the Lakers 52-40 in points in the paint, and the Lakers like to get in the paint, so that was huge as well. And yeah, like I said, I don't know if it was less tactics and more just guys that need to play better played better. Like, they got some better shots because of some of the lineup decisions, which I think was a welcome adjustment. But PJ, again, 9 of 14 from the floor, 22 points, made all 3 of his threes. I don't think he was taking necessarily that much different shots than he took against Memphis. He was just making them. Like, he's really good on those push shots and floaters, and he got a couple more of those tonight. He made his threes, which is like, make or miss league sometimes, which I know is kind of frustrating to talk about. Something that was interesting was they basically played one big for most of the game. Maxi was more of a backup 5 than he was a backup 4 playing next to Lively. Derek Lively only played 19 minutes because he was in foul trouble due to Anthony Davis getting him into foul trouble, which is going to happen. Not too big a deal. The Mavericks able to survive that, and Maxi playing 29 minutes, 29 quality minutes. He was really good in his minutes. Was huge. Getting back to Maxi at the 5, which they haven't really done a lot. They've been playing a lot of Maxi at the 4 lately, and I thought that opened things up for the bench a lot. Like, Maxi at the 5, that spacing was pretty nice. I think that opened up driving lanes, and maybe that's why the Mavericks were able to do first step dribble penetration without a screen and roll, because the Mavericks were playing 5 out at times when Maxi was at the 5. So I think that helped a lot too. And Maxi was able to hold up defensively at the 5, which is kind of the risk now because of his body and how he's lost some of his athleticism. It's a little harder for him to play the 5 full time than, say, like 3-4 years ago. But he held up pretty well. I thought he played well. I mean, everyone that played well for the most part, except for, Najee had struggled from the field, 2 of 11. He didn't have a great game, but for the most part, I mean, everyone that played, PJ, Dinwiddie, Clay, Maxi, Grimes, Hardy, those were all the main guys that got minutes tonight. They all contributed in various ways. I don't think they need, I think this is the starting lineup to roll with. I like, maybe you swap Najee for Grimes, but Dinwiddie Grimes is maybe a little small. Maybe you go matchup dependent. Lakers are kind of a big team. They don't play a small guard anymore, especially now that they've traded D'Angelo Russell. They played Gabe Vincent 24 minutes, but their starting lineup is huge. Like Davis, Hachimura, LeBron, Austin Reeves, Max Christie. I think Austin Reeves is the smallest guy on the floor at 6'5". So I like the Mavericks able to still have some ball handling versatility, but also matching up with the Lakers size with Dinwiddie and Najee instead of going Dinwiddie and Grimes. So Grimes coming off the bench is fine. If they need a little bit more juice offensively, maybe they put Grimes in for Marshall to get some more spacing. But I kind of like the balance that they had with this starting lineup, and I thought the whole team played very well. In terms of what you take away from it, I think the lineup change is something you take away from this. I think they should start Dinwiddie until Luka and or Kyrie come back. I kind of like the rotation. I like Maxi at the 5. Kind of an discussed, discuss. But no Daniel Gafford, who had a pretty nasty ankle sprain last night and is going to be out for a little bit. Don't want to say, it's hard to say this about an injured player, but Gafford has not been great this season, and the Mavericks have consistently lost his minutes when he's been on the floor due to a variety of things. Some of it's outside of Gafford's control, but I don't think it's shocking that no Gafford minutes in the Mavericks bench. Like, the Mavericks played pretty well, which is, again, Daniel Gafford's a quality backup center. This isn't like a trade Gafford or bench Gafford missive from me here, but he hasn't been playing well. He hasn't been playing his best. So to replace his minutes with Maxi, who actually played pretty well tonight, again, Maxi hasn't been at his best either. So it's not like Maxi has just been chomping at the bit. He's had his struggles. Safe to say he's had his struggles this season. But no Gafford. I kind of felt that the rebounding was a lot better tonight, and Gafford's been not great on the defensive boards this season. So I don't think that stuff is a total coincidence. But I also don't want to make any sweeping declarations after one game. The Mavericks are definitely going to need Gafford this season and in the playoffs. So, don't write him off. That's for sure. I thought defensively, the team played very well against LeBron and Anthony Davis. I thought they were pretty physical. Davis smoked some layups he should have made, so that made his stat line look a little bit worse. LeBron had a ridiculous dunk in the first half, but outside of that, didn't feel like he didn't have a ton of impactful moments. Thought the Mavericks kept him away from the paint pretty well. He shot a lot of jumpers. I thought they stayed connected to Austin Reeves pretty well too. And they didn't really let no one from the Lakers really got it going, so to speak. The Lakers, you hold them to under 97 points. That's any NBA team under 97 points. That's job well done. And that's another thing about the without Luka and Kyrie, like, this team can still play good defense. I think the big key for the Mavericks was they only had 10 turnovers. I think they had 10 individual turnovers, and then I think total team turnovers they had 13, which is lower than it has been. The Lakers scored 19 fast break points, which is a pretty decent amount. But I think the Mavericks were able to set up in the half court a little bit more than they have been previously, because they did keep their turnovers a little bit more in check than they had before. So that helped their defense as well. Like, the Mavericks still have, yes, Luka and Kyrie, and Luka's defense has been sorely missed. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but his size positionally, they missed that. But they still have Washington, Marshall, Lively, Grimes. That's enough defenders to play good team defense for an extended stretch, even if your offense stinks. But their offense was stinking so bad, it's hard to play defense when you're turning the ball over, 15 to 18 times a game. You're putting up shots that are so bad, like the poor Soch selection, where doesn't count as a turnover, but when you're taking bad shots that lead to runouts off long rebounds or bad misses, that compromises your defense as well. So them able to play a steady game offensively in the half court, I think, really helped their defense out, because this team can still play defense with Luka and Kyrie hurt. So they really need to lean into that. Maybe they need to slow the tempo at times and embrace that more grinding half court style. But we'll see. So yeah, really quality win. I'll be honest, I don't have too much more to say than that. I know that's going to make it a short podcast, but talking by myself, I just wanted to hit the main points. I wanted to shove it up everyone's butt about who I talked to today that tried to tell me that this Mavericks roster wasn't good. So it felt nice to get a little vindicated. Wanted to talk about the starting lineup change. Wanted to talk about how well they shot the three in their driving kick game. Maxi playing the 5 off the bench, I think, contributed to that drive and kick game and getting them some open threes. So that's something that they can build on going forward for sure. The Lakers aren't like an amazing team, but they entered this game 20-15. They're a playoff team. Like, this is a quality win. This is a quality win, like, with Luka and Kyrie. Like, to do this without Luka and Kyrie, like, it's honestly, for being honest, this is one of the more impressive wins of the season so far for the Mavericks. So, short 20-minute podcast. Don't have much more to say on this. We'll be back. The Mavericks are now 21-16. This was also huge because the schedule isn't getting any easier. They play Portland next, which is nice, but then they play Denver twice. They play, in the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, they're playing Denver twice, Oklahoma City twice, Minnesota, Boston. That's tough. So they need to kind of steal this game against a good team. Then you play Portland. Maybe you get two in a row. They play New Orleans twice. They play Charlotte twice, and they play Washington also in between those good teams. So there is a path for them now to get to January. You know what? Maybe going their next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They play 12 more games in January. They play Denver twice, Oklahoma City twice, Minnesota, Boston in terms of good teams. So by getting this win, they've set themselves up to maybe finish, 6-6 in these next 12 games. I know that would be optimistic, but if they can beat Portland, if they can beat New Orleans twice, if they can beat Charlotte, if they can beat Washington, that's what, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 wins. Can they go 5-7 in these next 12? Which doesn't sound great in the grand scheme of things, but it would be that would be a successful end to January if they can go 5-7. So let's see what happens. Let's see if they can follow the formula a little bit of what they did tonight. Let's see if they can lean on Maxi as a small ball 5 to boost their spacing, to try to get their offense out of gear, out of whack, missing their stars, and they'll go from there. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up. 22 minutes. I think that's enough for me to talk about this game by myself. You're listening to Pod Maverick After Dark. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch these podcasts live, or you can watch them after the fact. If YouTube is not your jam, please subscribe to our podcast on one of the many audio services, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. That helps us out a lot. And stick with us. I know it's difficult to watch some of these games right now. There's not a ton to talk about when the team is so injury ravaged. So we're going to make the best of it, and wins like tonight certainly help. I'll say that. So you guys stay safe. Again, Mavericks beat the Los Angeles Lakers soundly, 118-97. A full strength Lakers team, by the way, that just acquired Dorian Finney-Smith. They had LeBron, they had Anthony. They had their normal rotation tonight. So quality win. No flukiness to this one, I don't think. We'll be back to talk to you guys after the Portland game. That's going to be on Thursday. So talk to you guys in a few days. Stay safe. This is Pod Maverick After Dark. Check MavsMoneyball.com for all your post-game coverage and read more about this Lakers win. See ya.